It's that music, baby, which means it's Free Speech Fridays, the half hour where we take a couple of straight talking New Zealanders and we chew over the events of the week and the stuff we've been covering on the platform. And joining us today, and happy St. Patrick's Day to him, he's got a bit of Irish in him, to HQ host with the most, Leo Molloy. Leo, how are you, mate?
Good morning. How are we, Sean? And I can tell you I've got more than a bit of Irish in me. I've got every single molecule in my body's Irish, so...
That explains so much, Leo, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you. And also, it's not a particularly Irish name, Van Velden, but Brooke Van Velden, the Deputy Leader of the ACT Party. Happy Paddy's Day to you too.
Oh, happy St. Patrick's Day, Sean, and I'm pleased to note, you're right, my name is not Irish, but I do have Irish blood.
Oh.
My first ancestors to New Zealand actually came from Ireland before the treaty was signed.
Good Lord. Or Titiriti, if you work at the Mega Polytechnic, because we don't say the treaty anymore, Brooke, do we?
Oh, that's right. It's my mistake.
Okay, what did you think of that? That kind of style guide from the guy who's running the Mega Polytechnic. For all the academics, you can't use these words. You've got to use these words. And I know we haven't got it down, but it feeds into everything else we're talking about with freedom of speech this week, Brooke. Particularly, yeah. I guess, the rainbow tick issue with Leah Panipa, my old mate, and Miles Davis at MediaWorks being told you cannot tell the truth about who can have babies anymore, can you?
Yeah, well, it's really touching on a sentiment that I'm hearing a lot from New Zealanders, that everybody feels like we're needing to walk on eggshells. And we're overly concerned by what is right or what's acceptable to say, rather than focusing on the real big issues that really matter to people. You think about the education system. We have some serious issues that need to be faced, rather than worrying about whether or not you can say the word treaty, or whether or not it's acceptable because it might upset or offend or, play into any form of ideological narrative. We just need people involved in the education system focusing on education for the next generation of kids. But it's the same with Leah Panipa and the issue that we've seen with rainbow tick. A lot of people do have the sentiment that we're being told what to say, we're being told what to think, but we also have to allow for, a form of people to be respected in their opinions.
Yeah, I hear you.
Also,
Leo, are you Rainbow Tick? Is HQ a Rainbow Tick organisation?
No, we haven't had the formalities concluded. But first of all, good morning, Brooke. Nice to talk to you again on radio. Second thing, I was watching what's going on with Leah and Miles Davis, and I've got to say, I'll speak now as a veterinary surgeon. If you have ovaries and fallopian tubes and a uterus and a vagina, you are of the female persuasion. There's no doubt about that. And I don't understand why this gender neutrality homogenisation or blending of the genders is creeping in, because it's just another version of bullying. I mean, either you are or you aren't a woman, and you can or you can't have babies. People don't have babies. Females have babies. It's that simple. And I don't begrudge anybody the right to describe themselves as they wish in terms of gender, but it shouldn't be forced down the throat of every other person. And in particular, as Brooke points out, there's far more compelling issues to address than being bullied by having to get rainbow tick accreditation just because you don't subscribe to their value systems.
Yeah. You used that word bullying. Jonathan Ailing from the Free Speech Union used it this morning as well. Brooke, it would seem to me Rainbow Tick is an organisation, if you read their website, they are almost codifying and commercialising cancel culture bullying. They basically say if you don't get the Rainbow Tick, consumers could come for you and it could cost a lot of money. And they seem to, when they don't like something one of their members do, they proactively launch the witch hunt.
Yeah, look, the rainbow tick, as far as I'm aware, has been around for many, many years. I remember discussions about this over 10 years ago. But
That's not many years, Brooke. That's still quite recent, okay?
But it's not a certification or a trademark that's accepted by all people in the rainbow community. It's just by a certain group of the rainbow community who would like to go into businesses and say that businesses are now LGBTQI plus friendly. That's just a subset of New Zealanders who are lesbian, gay, transgender, etc.
And it's not all of them either, in fact.
Yeah.
And we had calls. We had a lovely call yesterday, I think it was from Doug, a gay guy, and he said, for God's sake, this doesn't represent me. And Leo, I look at your workplace, and I know a lot of your staff, and a lot of them might be LGBTQIAA, but they're good staff members and they're good people, and it seems to me you're the sort of person who wouldn't need some group to come in and tell you that you're diverse and tolerant. You can just be that way.
We simply don't think about it. We simply don't think about it. I mean, we do have, I suppose, diversity and we have inclusion, and they're two fundamental words when you talk about rainbow tick. But the difference is there that with rainbow accreditation, if you're not talking, thinking or behaving, or if you are in a non-inclusive way, then they exclude you. So there's an interesting hypocrisy going on there. We're the opposite. We don't even think about it, judge people. People are people. We don't really care. People just coexist and get on with their life in a harmonious, productive way.
Yeah, well bloody said. All right, let's move on to the other great easy issue that we deal with, is the issue of ethnicity and race. And gosh, it was only Monday, but it seems a long time ago that I had Nobby Clark, he who used the N-word Nobby as we could call him, and Meng Foon on to discuss the issue of I was offended by the poem, but it's a free country and you're allowed to offend me. But the apparent hypocrisy, a word you've raised, Leo, the hypocrisy of our Race Relations Conciliator and our Human Rights Commission, who seem to be telling New Zealand that you can't really be racist if you're a white person, or you can't be offended by racism if you're a white person, that you can't be racist towards white people. Firstly, Brooke, would you agree that that is the message, underlying message, that Meng Foon and the Human Rights Commission are sending to us?
Oh, I agree. That is the underlying message, and I think Meng Foon needs to go. I don't think the Human Rights Commission as well needs to be there. We're seeing blatant double standards where people are being told to apologise publicly for saying something that might be deemed racist against an ethnic minority. But when it's something against somebody who's white and the entire white population being told that they could be gunned down or stabbed, we hear dicky birds. That is a blatant form of hypocrisy and a double standard, and it is racism.
Yeah, I guess, Leo, the question is, does a person in the street even listen to what Meng Foon says? Are people aware, do you think, of just how nutty things have got?
Well, in defence of Meng Foon in the first instance, he has an extraordinary history, a cultural history, and he was an extraordinary human being for a long time, including his very long tenure as Mayor of Gisborne. But he appears to have been consumed now by his own woke ideology. I mean, the comment that really offended me was when he, and it was a slur.
You white people have still got something to contribute, Leo. That's why you're on the platform.
Yeah, that's the slur, and that's a clear put down that, we are minor players on the stage these days, and we will be invited occasionally to say something or to contribute something. That's inappropriate and unacceptable in my view. As for Tusiata Avia, and I hope I said that right, her poem keeps popping up. That doesn't really bother me too much. It was largely metaphorical. Nobby Clark with the N-word, I wish he didn't say it. I don't think there's any way a person can frame the N-word, and I know Nobby's in the art space himself. He owns a gallery, as I understand it, so he could probably use that as an excuse or mitigation, could compare himself to that poem. But I just don't think using the N-word ever sounds good in my view.
Yeah, well, and I guess unless you're a rapper. But I was told there's a difference between, there are two N-words. There's with it ending in an A and ending it in an ER, and apparently when rap artists use it about each other with an A, it's almost a form of brotherhood or endearment.
Yes, well, it certainly appears often on their radar and their music. And
but I thought it was never acceptable to use it, Leo.
Well, not for me, it's not.
Why is it different for you?
It's so uncomfortable. That word is
you wouldn't. You choose not to use it. Okay, Brooke, would you choose to use that word in context? The N-word?
No, absolutely not. No, I think it's unacceptable, and I personally wouldn't feel comfortable using it. But I think what's important here is, we just need to be a society that's respectful of all cultures, and stopping to put people in boxes just because of their race. I think most New Zealanders are feeling a bit over being told that their identity or their personality is inherently just tied to their race. We need to be bigger than that and think about everybody's overarching humanity. We are all human. We are all wanting to strive for something better. Let's just get on and do that.
Now, guys, I hate to drop this on. I'm just thinking the way this conversation's going, and I think this would be fun. You might not be aware, but overnight, after we sent you the list of topics for today, overnight, the woke media just absolutely creamed its jeans because and it's only the New Zealand edition of the Oxford Dictionary, doubtless after lobbying from government-funded people, has put a whole lot of new words, New Zealand words, in the New Zealand version of the English dictionary, and some of them are Māori, which, of course, has certain sectors of my audience included clutching at their pearls and thinking the sky is falling. But I thought it would be interesting with you two people who are urban and sophisticated and of varying ages and genders, if we could go through the list and see if you knew what these words were and if you would agree they are in common usage. Are you guys up for that? Leo?
I'm up for it. Could be a bit of fun, actually, to see what
Okay, Brooke, you into this?
Look, I'm happy to give it a go.
All right, okay, and I'm not playing got you. It's not one of those things, what's the GDP? She's a useless politician. She can't name the GDP to the fourth decimal place, so let's go. The new words, these are the new words in the New Zealand version of the English dictionary. A-E. You know what that means, Leo?
To be frank, I don't. I could hazard a guess, but no, I don't know.
Brooke?
Is that yes?
Yeah, okay, you say it's yes. Okay, afterball. What's an afterball? We know what an afterball is. I can take you both get a tick on that.
Well, in my view, it's just a straight-out piss-up, and it's the kids, spotty-faced kids have been to the ball and want to have a layer.
Afterball to you is profit, but perhaps licensing problems. That's what an afterball is to Leo Molloy. It's potential custom, but you need to check their ages. Brooke, what's an afterball for you? Something you went to a couple of years ago?
Oh, yeah, I would consider an afterball the real party that happens after the formal part of the school ball.
Excellent. Okay, bitzer. A bitzer is?
Ming Foon.
I knew this would be good. Brooke van Velden, what's a bitzer?
To be honest, I have no idea or context for that word.
A bitzer is a mongrel dog. It's a bitzer, bits of everything.
Sorry, Ming, I apologise. I didn't realise. I thought it was a blend.
Okay, a blend, a bitzer. Okay, it's like Labor's economic policy. Chair. You both use the term chair commonly?
Leo? Oh, yeah, well, that would be...
I don't use it, but I hear... Yeah, you go first, Brooke. Yep.
Yeah, just an informal greeting.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
Of acceptance.
Chair, Brooke. Leo and chair, you would have heard that. We agree. Droppy.
Yeah, all okay. Good as, bro. Sweet. That's
a droppy. Think about it. I only figured this out.
I'm going to go for a drop kick.
Yeah, you see, I didn't even get that this morning when I looked at it. I drew a blank and then I thought, it's a drop kick, isn't it? Okay, so that's all right. Ehoa. E space H-O-A. Ehoa. Leo, any idea?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay, no. Brooke?
I have seen this one, but to be honest, I'm not 100% sure about the context. I think it is like it's another one of those acceptance words about a person.
Oh, okay. And there's a hoa ma, and we don't know. I don't know why enroll is there. We're not going to even bother with enroll. Flat stick makes it. I think we all know what flat stick means, don't we?
Well, it's my life, flat stick, yeah.
Yeah, flat stick. It's why you take Viagra, I imagine. Brooke, flat stick.
I don't even want to entertain that.
No, flat stick is what? It's going flat out, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, didn't you know that?
You're telling me.
Didn't you know that? That going flat stick is like pedal to the metal, full steam ahead, maximum
I get
speed.
That one.
Good Lord. This is generational. Hooning. Brooke, do you know what hooning is?
I do know what hooning is. I've heard it in the context of those.
Hoons. Yeah. Leo,
I think it's what they do. It's what they do in between ram raids, isn't it? They do a ram raid and they go hooning.
You would have hooned in your younger days. You would have been hoonish, which is another word, wouldn't you?
Long time ago.
Yeah. Iwi, we all know what an iwi is, don't we? Okay. Kaitiaki. Leo, Kaitiaki, any idea?
Once again, void here, sorry.
Okay.
No idea.
Brooke?
Kaitiaki is like a...
It's not a Cook Strait ferry. That's just a little hint.
No, it's like a looking after.
Okay. Oh, okay. Duty of like guardianship or something. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Kaumatua. Come on, Leo. You've got to know that.
Well, family and the elders and...
Okay. You're a bit of a kaumatua, aren't you, Leo?
Well, I fraternise with the Kamatu of the Hill, if that's what you mean. So, yep.
Okay. Brooke, you'd know that one as well?
Yeah, they're like the leader elders.
Okay. So like Don Brash would be your kaumatua, wouldn't he? In an ACT party sense.
He'd be more matua, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kaupapa. What is kaupapa, Brooke?
The teaching.
Teaching? Is that teaching? Leo, you would agree with that? I don't know if we're right or wrong here.
No, I'm going to say that's a fair enough.
Okay. Kaupapa.
Interpretation.
Kehua. Kehua. Any idea, Brooke?
Sorry, say that again.
Kehua. Kehua. Now, hua, I know. I use that quite a lot, particularly about Eleanor Catton.
I have to say, kehua is not bringing anything to me.
Okay, Leo, nothing? You're drawing a blank on kehua? Okay. Kiwiness, I think we know what that is. Koha. Come on, that's an easy one, Leo. I'll give you that. Koha.
You know, I'm guilty of offering koha on numerous occasions.
I'm guilty of accepting it, often from you.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a koha dude. Yep.
Yeah, and Brooke, it's illegal for politicians to accept koha, isn't it? You've got to declare your koha.
They are. They're one little gift.
Okay, Brooke, what is a kuia?
Kuia?
Kuia. Kuia. Any idea?
Kuia.
Kuia.
No, that's drawing a blank.
Leo, anything?
No, blank for me as well.
Okay, look, I'm just now... I'm going to go for the hard ones. Pipiha. You know what a pipiha is, Leo?
No, but I'm inclined to say, can we move on to MRA? Because I want to talk about...
Oh, okay, all right. Well, look, what I think we've demonstrated, and we haven't got down to stuffed, which I think is having government-funded left-wing journalists write stories about you. We got tamariki toto. I think we've demonstrated already there that actually most of those words aren't in common parlance. I would say you people represent a fair cross-section of the New Zealand population. Let's get on to the RMA. That's the other big story we checked out today. Three Waters supposedly on hold, or there's new consultation, but we find out from the Taxpayers Union and some other groups this week that the Resource Management Act rework that's currently before Parliament is like co-governance on speed, Brooke. How come we were all looking the other way at Three Waters and this stuff is already before Select Committee?
Oh, well, look, we weren't looking the other way. I mean, ACT has been banging on about this one for over a year. The Select Committee process has been underway for over 6 months, and the first draft of the bill was put forward before Parliament at the beginning of last year. For the past year, our Environment and Resource Management spokesperson, Simon Court, has been talking about this quite publicly, and you do actually have to give Labor some credit. They did put out a draft well over a year ago, and they have openly been discussing changing resource management for co-governance. So this is nothing new, but the real issue with it is it is co-governance on stealth. You've got 15 new planning committees that could potentially be set up around New Zealand, with 6 people minimum on each of these boards, 2 of them needing to be nominated by the local Māori, with the Waitangi Tribunal coming out and saying, well, they expect that 50% of these boards would have local Māori, rather than just the 2 minimum. But importantly, the purpose statement for resource management used to say that it was about sustainable management of resources. This new one, the Natural Built Environment Act, says that it's about what was the word? Te oranga o te taio. which is all about the well-being of the environment and the interconnectedness of all parts of the natural world and the relationship between iwi.
So we'll be living in an Avatar movie, basically.
Well, it just shows that it would make building anything in this country even harder and more complex, especially when you've got undefined relationships between iwi and the natural world that you'd have to now navigate. And it's bad enough trying to build anything now, but trying to build it in this very uncertain environment is even worse. These RMA reforms should have been about instating property rights, but now it's made it more complex about who could potentially have a relationship with the environment.
Well, that's a politician's comeback. Leo, what do you reckon? Is Brooke right?
Well, that's a very deep analysis, and as you'd expect, Brooke knows far more about it than I do, but I would use a couple of examples. The Canterbury Film Age in particular, their pushback, they're saying that the costs are going to be thrust upon the local people, the ratepayers effectively gets passed on to, but the power, they're being emasculated, the power goes to these 15 new bodies. Taupo is another good example, Taupo, if you're old, Taupo. They're losing their district planning ability, capacity at all. The whole thing's being removed from them, and they're going to now be governed out of Hamilton. That, to me, is that's a very much an erosion of democracy, and I've yet to see a good example of where you effectively centralise into a smaller number of bodies who then control the regions. I don't see that as being a working model at all. I don't see it as being effective. Having said that, the RMA is a dog. Thanks, Geoffrey Palmer, for your trouble there. And it has to have something done to it. But when we're definitely going off in a new direction with David Palmer's 3 new laws. But is it the right direction? Based on the submissions to the Select Committee, I very much doubt if it is. I think it's going to need a lot of work before it could even be considered to being passed into law.
Well, they say they're going to do it before the election, Leo. Bit late, and they have a working majority in Parliament.
Well, it may well be, if it's, as described, another version of Three Waters, that will be the undoing of the Labor Party, because clearly the country has no appetite for anything that jeopardises or erodes democracy. It's that simple. So, and Three Waters does, and if these 3 new laws erode democracy or jeopardise democracy, that will be the undoing of this government.
Yeah, look, do you guys mind staying a little longer? I can bump the news back, and there's just a couple of other really interesting issues that I think you want to get into. Is that all right? We do another extra 5 minutes? Brooke?
Yeah, I'm happy as
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, all right. Well, this kind of segues into that. You say the undoing of the government. But the fact is, right now, we look at the latest polls, we look at what's happening, and ACT kind of holding its own, Brooke, it would seem to me. But, geez, if Labor was trying to change its fortunes with swapping out its leaders, it's damn well worked, hasn't it, Brooke?
Oh, I think we can expect to see a little bump for any new Labor leader. It was very clear that Jacinda Ardern was not popular, so I think Chris Hipkins would be expecting a little bump. But what I think will become very clear over time is that you've got now a government that's exactly the same, who's trying to dump maybe a couple of little policies, but they're wanting credit for essentially being a kid who's tucking in their bed when the rest of their room is a complete mess. And all of that mess will completely be seen by the public over the next few months. I'm very happy with where ACT is, but I expect that will continue to grow, because the only way that we actually get real change is from ACT having a larger seat at the table and to get our policies through.
Yeah. Leo, what do you reckon? It's worked. It looks, the raw numbers are looking pretty good for Labor.
Yeah, but there's a lot of cynicism here, because look at the rebranding of Hipkins, the hoodie and wraparound drug dealer sunglasses and, I eat pies and I go to the local workmen's club. Bullshit you do, Skippy. That's all made up rubbish. You're none of those things. The other thing, the back-to-back state of emergencies where they could monopolise the media and the platforms, the microphones for such a long period of time. They've had everything in their favour to get the bump that Brooke described. I think over the next few months, particularly if Luxon lifts his game, and he has to lift his game, jeepers, he's behaving a bit like a cardboard cutout at the moment, so he needs a wee bit of advice. But Hipkins is trying to traverse the middle ground. He's doing a pretty good job. They're burning all the Ardern bridges, and so they should do.
Well, are they burning? Is it a dumpster fire, or have they just filed away those unpopular policies? He got caught in the parliamentary lobby the other day, Brooke, and after all those policies gone, and boy, he looked like, some of them are, now's not the time. And I guess it's what Leo was saying. These policies, these unpopular policies, the cash for clunkers things, all the other weird ideological stuff, I just think they might just not be talking about it until they've got that pesky election out of the way.
Yeah, well, that's right. And it's the same for the hate speech laws. They've been kicking it for touch in the hopes to get re-elected. I don't think getting rid of some of these smaller policies shows that they're a party who's wanting to go right back to where they started. There's still an awful lot of bad ideological policies that they still need to remove. I mean, we've still got the fair pay agreements. You've got the ute tax, 3 waters. You've got the 39% tax rate and the war on the landlords. These are all terrible policies that haven't been touched. So, yes, good riddance to some of the bad policies, but there's a huge amount under that tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, Leo, do you trust them to resurrect the crappy stuff they've got rid of at some stage in the future?
Oh, of course I don't trust them. As I said, they're very cynical the way they're rebranding, and I have absolutely no doubt. And you've only got to look at there's been no attempt or pushback apart from Willie's media merger. There's been no against the Māori caucus, so clearly they're terrified of doing anything that.
I almost feel, guys, like they've done a deal with the Māori caucus. Look, let's just stop talking. Let's just stop talking about this stuff. Don't worry, we'll still do it. Don't cause us any trouble before the election. Just stay in your lane and then we'll do it all afterwards. Is that possible? Brooke, is that how the way politics works?
Oh, look, it's quite possible. I have no knowledge of the inner workings of the Labour Party. But you've got to look at it this way. Either they were lying for a very long time about all of the benefits of their wonderful policies, or they're lying now, because either way, they were talking them up a big game, and now they're saying that they didn't need them at all. And most of them, in terms of some of those climate change policies, weren't going to do anything. So either they were right then or they were right now. Yeah. Either way, I don't think you can trust them.
Yeah. Finally, guys, I do want to deal with the NIWA issue, and we've covered this a lot with Ian Wishart this week. And we look at the school march for climate change, the Greens trying to reassert themselves politically, and our mainstream media have basically created the impression or have reported that Cyclone Gabriel was the result of climate change, and they have used that statements from government agencies like NIWA. Ian Wishart from Investigate magazine has actually looked at the data, and fundamentally there is no science to support that assertion. There is a computer model that suggests that maybe 20 to 30% of the rainfall in that event may be attributable to man-made climate change, but that is all we have got scientifically. Yet we seem to be in the grips of a religious movement about the climate crisis when it isn't. Are you guys, and I meet all sorts of people who I'd otherwise call rational, decent people who are part of this religion. Leo, do you think that Gabriel was man-made climate change related? Or unusual by New Zealand historical standards?
Well, certainly not unusual by historical standards. There are numerous cases of that type of extreme weather event where the consequences have been far worse. But I did run into Chris Brandolino the other day, who's from NIWA, who I had huge respect for, meteorologist and scientist, and I said to him, help me understand, because I'm getting confused by the mixed messaging coming through the media. And he explained La Nina versus El Nino. Everything he said made absolute crystal clear common sense. He should be on the mainstream media explaining more often to people exactly what's going on.
And did he say it was man-made climate change that caused Gabriel?
Absolutely, totally not. He said it's very cyclical, and he was claiming what will happen in Australia next year, where this year they got drenched.
And this guy works for NIWA?
You must know who Chris Brandolino is.
No, I haven't.
He does mainstream consultancy for TV1, TV3, all those sort of people.
Oh,
very,
for mainstream.
Very articulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said no, but all those organisations are reporting that it is man-made climate change.
It's like listening to Chloe Swarbrick, isn't it? Anything they want to, they can twist it and say it's to do with us. I drive a V8, therefore I caused that flood up.
And Brooke, I am going to predict, Brooke, that you are going to and ha on this, because I think the religion of climate change has so permeated political parties and polling, and Luxon will not take a stand on this. Are you prepared to? Is the ACT Party prepared to say that a lot of our reportage and fears about climate change is bullshit?
Oh, look, my position is that humans do contribute to climate change, and I do think the climate is changing.
Yeah.
But, of course, I think you're also able to take a step back and say, was all of this flooding and recent weather events to do with climate change? And I don't believe it is. So I believe there's a portion that could be contributed, but we've also got to look at, well, what else were the other factors, the other weather events that may have just been cyclical, but also the lack of permeability that we've had in a lot of our cities over the last few years based on building up and concreting over, so water doesn't have anywhere to go, and also the maintenance of our stormwater and drainage systems, which hasn't been up to par. So yes, we had terrible effects. Some of those could have been remedied by having better infrastructure in place. Yeah. But I think
but they won't be remedied by us going carbon neutral by 2050, Brooke.
No, I think we need to be smarter and say if there is going to be climate change and humans will contribute to this, we need to adapt. If New Zealanders want to punish farmers for it, we're going to get nowhere. We have to look at ourselves in context of the whole world. There will still be billions of people burning coal to feed their families around the world if we tried to mitigate against climate change. We need to invest in better water infrastructure and better city infrastructure for weather events if we're going to see more of them.
All right, very good. Now, finally, and Brooke, thank you so much for contributing. I did think that was a bit wishy-washy, but that's just my opinion. Leo, it is St. Patrick's Day. What are you doing up at HQ?
Can I talk about Nashi first? I can't let this moment
go. Okay, Nashi. We forgot Nashi. I just thought we'd all presumed he's an idiot.
No, absolutely not. Now, I know Brooke's going to disagree here, and we're allowed to disagree, but I absolutely, totally support what he said and did, and I don't care if it's a breach of the Cabinet Manual. I don't care if he's breaking the law. The reality is that when he spoke out about Matthew Hunt, that young cop was executed. He had every right to intervene there, and if he didn't intervene, he was a part of the problem. So I think Nashi should be applauded for what he did, and he should be applauded for reaching out to Costa, who is clearly as weak as piss, and telling Costa to tell the judiciary, who do listen to what's said, that they've got to harden up and start dealing with these issues. There's so many problems. I don't know if you saw it overnight, but 5 kids, I think the youngest one was 9, yet again, another ram raid here in town. It's just appalling what's going on. And the system is broken. It's badly broken. I know the idealists say, it's all intergenerational, multifactorial stuff, and that's a fair argument. But the reality is we've got to harden up. The police have to harden up, and so does the judiciary. The police have got to be allowed to do their job, and at the moment I don't believe they're doing their job. And all Nashi was doing was saying to Foster and saying to the judiciary, let the police do their bloody job, for God's sake.
Oh, Brooke, your response to that?
Oh, well, look, firstly, I can completely understand why people want to hear a police minister or a minister being tough on crime. We do have a lot of crime in our community, and people want to feel like they're being represented and that the government's going to do something. But I completely disagree with the comments that Stuart Nash has made, especially when it came to the case 2 years ago. It's incredibly important that we have rule of law in New Zealand, and politicians are not seen to be interfering with prosecution or the effect of somebody being locked up. And that's important across the board for your political beliefs, but also we don't want to live in a banana republic where politicians of the day can influence the sentencing of somebody before the courts. That's why the Solicitor General stepped in and thought about pressing charges against Stuart Nash, because it could have caused a mistrial. People have a right to good rule of law, but they also have a right to a fair trial and to know that the judiciary will not be sentencing them based on political opinion or something before the government.
There you go, Leo. That's why.
Well, no, that's not why at all, because it's the same as when I breached the suppression order knowingly and I've never resiled from it. You can have judge-only trials. It doesn't jeopardise the chance of a fair trial. It might jeopardise the chance of a fair jury trial.
Brooke was talking about the separation between the executive branch or between, Parliament and the police. You can't have politicians telling the police who to arrest. That's like Piggy Muldoon with Colin Moyle in the SIS, mate.
Well, I think Colin Moyle asked what he got, didn't he, if that's what you're referring to? Didn't he accuse Piggy Muldoon of corruption within his accountancy firm? And then he got what he justly deserved, that loitering around public toilets?
You see, Leo, you're just an anarchist at heart, mate.
No, I'm not. The bad law is bad law. You have an obligation to oppose it.
Yeah, Brooke?
I would like to know that if I was up before the courts or being, sentenced for something, there were not politicians bending the ear of the police commissioner or putting out statements that could, or Crown Law, or putting out statements that could sway a judge or a judiciary to changing the sentence.
Yeah. All right.
Well, why don't you standardise all legal representation then? Because what you're effectively saying is if one lawyer is better than another, it's not fair, and that's a fair argument. But I don't see how what you're saying, Brooke, has any relevance. It defies common sense. If you are a politician of any description, if you have a voice in the media, you have an obligation. It's like when homosexuality was illegal. You have an obligation to stand up and say that's a bullshit piece of legislation. It should be remedied. That's what your obligation is.
Yeah, but not to influence the police or officials.
What your obligation is as a member of the government is to put in place laws that allow the judiciary to have sentencing that is appropriate for the crime. I think what was then missing leadership in government and putting in place better sentencing to keep our victims safe on our streets. We've seen the government get rid of 3 strikes. That's something that ACT wants to put back. That is the role of ministers, to create clear laws about what offences should be for different types of crimes. It's not the role of government to be saying how the judiciary should be implementing it.
Is it okay then for Kelvin Davis to crow publicly about how diminished numbers are actually in jail incarcerated? Isn't that the same thing? He's effectively saying to the judiciary, the corrections, that we want people out of jails. What's the difference?
Well, we do need people to be following the law. Kelvin Davis is right to be talking about his corrections portfolio and what's been happening in the courts. That's separate to the justice system that's before the sentencing. There's very clear rules here, even within the Cabinet Manual and the Sentencing Act, to say that people who are elected to a position of leadership within government should not
Right. Okay, I understand now. So it's okay. It's okay for Kelvin Davis to talk in general terms and influence the judiciary to not put people in jail, but Stu Nash can't use particular cases. So if Stu Nash went back tomorrow and said, generally speaking, I want more people in jail, that would be okay. Is that what you're saying?
Well, he should be trying to get his cabinet ministers to pass laws that are stronger for victims. That's what his role should be. Looking after the people of New Zealand and advocating for police to have the resources to do their jobs.
You guys are not going to agree today, and I tell you what, this has been fantastic. I've sat there and I've been just listening, and it's 11 past 9. We went way over, but that is the sort of debate we need in this country, and you guys have got different views and you're talking through it. Brooke, are you in Auckland this weekend or today?
I'm in Auckland today, but tomorrow I will be down in Velden.
I reckon Leo would shout you a pint of Guinness and chew your ear off if you popped into HQ today, because it's... Wouldn't
that would be an honour, Dave. Look, bring little David in as well. I'll get him to have it. I'll just look over. There's a couple of journalists sitting on my front deck. That's interesting.
Have you?
No, we'll have a few pints of Guinness, pints of Murphy's, and we'll have some battered bluff oysters. I've got 500 dozen oysters for today set aside. And I can tell you, I'm over at the wee joint looking across the deck, and there's a bloke there from the business desk, and he's having a generous sup on a nice big pint of Murphy's. So good on him.
Really?
I won't name him.
12 past 9. You're not... but come on. You can't do that, Leo. You're defaming everyone else who works at business desk.
No, he's munching on something substantial too. Looks like toast or something on it.
Take pictures and post them on the internet, Leo. That's the only thing to do. Brooke Van Velden, Deputy Leader of ACT, thank you. Leo Molloy from HQ, thank you both. We will talk again soon. That was Free Speech Friday, and what a Free Speech Friday it was.